Your grandfather sat on his porch on a July evening and the mosquitoes left him alone. No candles, no gadgets, no cans of spray lined up on the railing, and inside the house it was the same story. No flies circling the kitchen, no ants marching across the counter, no moths in the wool. Your grandfather kept a whole summer household bug-free, natural pest control we would call it today, with a handful of quiet habits and a couple of tools that cost almost nothing. Most of it I am going to walk you through right now, but there were two moves in particular, one for the porch, one for the kitchen, that worked so well the big companies eventually bottled them and sold them back to us. Those two I am saving for the very end, because once you see them, you will never look at the pest aisle the same way again. So stay with me all the way through. It started, like most of his methods did, with keeping trouble out instead of fighting it once it was in. The window screen was one of the great, quiet inventions of his lifetime, and he treated it with respect. Every spring he walked the house and checked each screen for tears and gaps, and a hole the size of a pencil eraser got patched or the screen got replaced, because to a mosquito, a small hole is an open door. The screen door had a spring so it slammed shut on its own, and woe to the child who stood there holding it open. It sounds strict, but that one habit, tight screens, doors that close themselves, did more to keep a house bug-free than anything sold in a bottle today. The second habit was the water patrol, and this one is pure science. Even though he learned it long before he could have told you why, mosquitoes do not appear out of the summer air. This is what mosquito control experts call source reduction, eliminating the breeding sites before the insects hatch. Every one of them is born in standing water, and only a few days of it in almost no water at all. A forgotten bucket, a clogged gutter, the saucer under a flower pot, an old tire holding a cup of rain. Each one is a mosquito nursery. Container breeding species like Aedes aegypti, the yellow fever mosquito, can complete their life cycle in a bottle cap of water. So once a week your grandfather walked the yard and tipped things over. He emptied the saucers, cleared the gutters, flipped the wheelbarrow, changed the water in the birdbath. 10 minutes, once a week, and he was killing the next 1,000 mosquitoes before they ever grew wings. To this day, the health authorities will tell you the same thing. The cheapest mosquito control in the world is a dry yard. The CDC and the EPA both confirm it. Eliminating standing water is the first line of defense against mosquitoes. And the stakes are real. In America, mosquitoes still carry West Nile virus, which is exactly why the health authorities take a forgotten bucket so seriously. Inside the house, the rule was just as simple: never feed them. Ants and flies do not come looking for you, they come looking for what you left out. The sugar lived in a tin with a real lid. The flour lived in a jar. The fruit bowl got eaten before it got soft, and a bruised peach went into a pie or into the compost pail with the lid on, never left sweating on the counter. Crumbs got wiped the same hour they landed, and the kitchen bin was emptied every night, not when it was full. A clean, sealed kitchen is an invisible kitchen as far as an insect is concerned. Half of pest control is simply not setting the table for them. And when the flies did get in, he had answers that worked without a single drop of poison. For the little fruit flies hovering over the sink, he set the jar trap. A splash of vinegar in the bottom of a jar, cider vinegar if he had it, because the smell of ripe fruit is exactly what draws them. And 1 drop of dish soap. The vinegar calls them in, and the soap breaks the surface of the liquid so they cannot stand on it. That is the whole trick. A trap you can build in 30 seconds from things already in the cupboard, and it clears a kitchen of fruit flies in a day or two. For the bigger flies, there was the ribbon of flypaper twisting slowly over the kitchen, and that ribbon has a story worth telling. Flypaper, as your grandfather knew it, came out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, from a company called Tanglefoot, which patented its sticky paper back in 1887. Their coating was castor oil, resins, and wax, sticky enough to hold and famously free of poison, at a time when other flypapers were laced with arsenic. Think about that. The old ribbon hanging over the table was the non-toxic option, more than a century before that word was fashionable. It caught flies day and night, cost pennies, and put nothing into the air your family breathed. Out on the porch, he paid attention to the light itself. A bright white bulb over the door is a beacon to night insects. Most of them steer by light, and they see the blue end of it far better than we do. Scientists call this phototaxis, the movement of organisms toward light, and it explains why the wrong bulb fills a porch with moths and beetles. So the old houses had a soft yellow porch bulb. Insects barely notice yellow light. Same porch, same evening, a fraction of the swarm. It is such a small change that most people never think of it, and it is still one of the easiest wins in the whole battle. Now let me save you some money, because two of the most popular gadgets in the pest aisle would have made your grandfather laugh. What he practiced instead was integrated pest management, the very framework the EPA recommends today, combining physical barriers, habitat changes, and targeted baits to control pests with minimal risk. The first is the electric bug zapper. That satisfying crackle sounds like victory, but when University of Delaware researchers actually counted what a zapper kills, out of nearly 14,000 dead insects, 31 were biting insects. 31. That is less than 1 in 400. The rest were moths, beetles, and midges, the harmless night crowd, including the very insects that feed the birds and eat the pests. Mosquitoes, you see, are not hunting light. They are hunting you. The carbon dioxide of your breath and the warmth and moisture of your skin. A zapper massacres the innocent bystanders and misses the criminal almost entirely. Your grandfather never owned one, and he was right. The second waste of money is most of what promises to shield a whole patio with a scent. A citronella candle flickering politely in the corner is doing far less than the marketing suggests, because scent drifts wherever the air goes, and the mosquito only has to approach from the other side. Essential oil sprays and peppermint bottles have the same problem, real enough up close, but they cannot hold a perimeter. The mosquito simply goes around. Which brings me, at last, to the first of the two moves I promised you, the porch move, and the reason his evenings outside were peaceful. It was a fan, an ordinary electric fan set on the porch floor, sweeping across the sitting area. It feels almost too simple, but here is the science, and it is confirmed by the people who fight mosquitoes for a living. A mosquito is one of the weakest flyers in the insect world. Its top speed is barely above a slow walk, and in any real breeze it simply cannot hold its course. The wind from a box fan is a wall it cannot fly through. And the fan does a second job at the same time. It scatters the plume of carbon dioxide and warmth rising off your body, the very trail the mosquito follows to find you. So the fan hides you and outmuscles them at once. No chemicals, no smoke, no buzzing gadget, moving air for pennies an evening. The American Mosquito Control Association itself recommends it. Your grandfather just called it a comfortable breeze, and he sat in it all summer unbitten. One honest note for when you leave the porch. On a deep woods evening far from any outlet, the CDC's answer is an EPA-registered repellent on the skin, DET or picaridin. At home, the fan does the job without putting anything on you at all. And then there were the ants. And here comes the kitchen move, my favorite of them all, because it ends with the pest aisle selling us his own trick. When a line of ants found its way to the pantry, your grandfather did not stamp on them one by one. He understood something most people still do not. The ants you see are the messengers. Maybe 1 in 20 of the colony. Kill them, and the nest just sends more. Worse, they walk on invisible scent trails. So he would first wipe the counter and the floor with vinegar water, erasing the roadmap they had laid down. Those trails are pheromone pathways, chemical signals ants lay down to guide nestmates to food. And then, instead of chasing them, he fed them, deliberately. He used 20 Mule Team Borax, a brand named after the 20 mule wagons that hauled borax out of Death Valley from 1883 to 1889. A spoonful of sugar dissolved in water, a pinch of borax stirred in. The same 20 Mule Team Borax from the laundry shelf, set out on a scrap of cardboard right where the ants had been running. The sweetness calls the workers in. The borax is slow enough that they carry the meal home and share it with the whole nest, the queen included. For a few days it looks like you have made things worse, because the trail gets busier. That is the trap working. And then, all at once, silence. The colony is gone, at the root, not just the visitors on the counter. Now here is the part that ties the whole story together. Walk into any hardware store today and look at the best-selling ant killer in America. The Little Liquid Bait Stations by Taro. Read the label. The active ingredient is 5.4% sodium tetraborate decahydrate, borax, in sweetened water. That is your grandfather's saucer of sugar water. Measured, molded in plastic, and sold at 100 times the price of the pantry version. They did not beat his method, they bottled it. Just one honest warning and it matters. Borax is gentle stuff next to modern sprays, but a sweet bait is exactly as interesting to a dog or a toddler as it is to an ant. So it goes behind the stove, under the cabinet, up out of reach, always. Borax has a toxicity roughly comparable to table salt. Its LD50 in rats is about 2,660 milligrams per kilogram, but any bait sweet enough to attract ants needs to be kept away from pets and children. He was careful, and so should you be. And to clear up a confusion people still have, borax and boric acid are cousins, not twins, two different powders from the same family. Both will end an ant colony, but his box said borax, and that is the one this recipe wants. If you find boric acid instead, it works on ants too. But it is a different strength, so never swap the two 1 for 1 in a recipe. For the crawling insects beyond the sugar's reach, he kept one more old powder on the shelf. Diatomaceous earth, crushed fossil shells, harmless on a fingertip, fatal to an insect's shell. The food-grade kind gets dusted dry along the baseboards, keeps working as long as it stays dry, and the EPA counts it as safe to use around the house. And remember what the loud alternative looked like in his day. Whole neighborhoods fogged with DDT until Rachel Carson's Silent Spring in 1962 showed the bill and the EPA banned the stuff 10 years later. His quiet methods never needed the apology. So look at what your grandfather actually had. Tight screens and a door that shut itself. A dry yard, patrolled once a week. A kitchen that fed the family and starved everything else. A vinegar jar for the fruit flies. A ribbon of Tanglefoot for the big ones. A yellow bulb over the door. And then the two aces. A plain electric fan that beats a mosquito's wings and hides your scent for pennies, and a spoonful of sugared borax that quietly ends an ant colony. The very recipe the companies now sell back to us in little plastic traps. Not one drop of spray in the air. He never fought the bugs on their terms. He took away their water, their food, their light, and their landing. And summer belonged to the family again. So tell me down in the comments, do you remember the flypaper ribbon over your grandmother's table? The screen door that slammed behind you 100 times a day? And is there a fan on your porch tonight? These old ways are quietly slipping away, and everyone you share helps keep them alive. If this brought back that porch on a July evening, stay with me, because there is a whole lifetime of this simple old wisdom worth remembering, one season at a time. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.